Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I know it's such a wrong slot to be in, me standing before you and lunch, but I'll try and see if I can satiate some of that hunger of yours. Ever since Ideas Exchange got in touch with me a few weeks back, I've been wondering, within a slot of 40 minutes, on a topic as interesting as talent retention and innovative techniques, what is it that I can share with you? One, I realized, and I was convinced, that I would need to show you and tell you what 3M is all about. Otherwise, you wouldn't understand the context in which some of these initiatives have been taken. And I did not want to do it at the fear of you thinking that I've come here and I'm selling the 3M brand. Two, innovative techniques. And we heard in the previous session that everybody is so well networked. With one Google search, you would get all the innovative techniques that are there at the tip of your fingertips. So at the fear of also possibly a strong word, of possibly being ridiculed, I said, what the heck? 3M is a great organization, and I think we've done some wonderful work, so here I am. So I will take you through a few slides to show you what 3M is all about internationally, what we are in India, and then I'll move over to what I think are some unique practices, and then I'll share with you a slide of not so unique practices, and I will allow you to pick and choose in case anything strikes your eye so that I can tell you a little more about it, and then I'll go into summary. Driving a culture of innovation. I do not know how many of you in this room are aware that 3M is a pioneer where innovation is concerned. And we have been the leaders of innovation for many a decade till we got bored a few years ago. And we allowed two others to overtake us. I'm sure you would know who those two others are. Can I hear you say that? Google is the second, but ahead of them, Apple. That's right. So we have Apple and Google ahead of us for the time being, and we will let them enjoy the moment, and we will come back after some time. It was 1902 that 5 young, adventurous people went mining, and they did not find the product that they were looking for. They were very disappointed. They ran out of cash. And it was only after 15 years that they got their first product. It was an abrasive cloth. And since then, there's been no looking back. In fact, you'll be surprised, for those of you who do not know about 3M, that we have 50,000 plus products, and we are counting. Yeah? One of the products I'm very proud about, which is not there, is that product where Neil Armstrong landed on the moon. The soul of his suite was a 3M product. Yeah? And since then, we have gone ahead and we have innovated and created many a product in many a field. And some of those fields that you see here are industrial and transportation. In fact, internationally we have 6 businesses, but in India we have 7 businesses. That's because we've split industrial and transportation because they are 2 huge businesses for us. Then we have safety, security, and protection services. We have healthcare. We have consumer and office. We have display and graphics and electro and communications. I will not spend any time on this because then the purpose of me being here would be lost. But we are headquartered in a place called St. Paul in Minnesota. We are about 30 billion plus as we speak. We are more than 75,000 employees. We have, as I mentioned earlier, 50,000 plus products. And one surprising thing is that we continue to invest in our R&D year after year. Even in those years and this year where our economy is down, anything between 5 to 6% of our sales turnover, of our profits, are reinvested into R&D. We have operations in more than 65 countries, but sales in more than 200 countries. And we are one of those 30 companies for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and also as part of Standard & Poor's 500 index. We have 45 technology platforms, and there is a lot of cross-pollination which happens wherein our ideas connect across diverse technologies. We are a well-recognized and reputed brand. Interbrand has rated us as number 2 in the best global green brands. We have been rated by Booz & Co. as the 3rd most innovative company, as mentioned earlier, as the 4th most reputable company by Forbes Institute, as the 7th most respected company by Barron's. We have received the Energy Star 7 times, and the European Great Places of Work organization has rated us as the 5th best employer to work with, and we are 18th among the 50 most admired Fortune companies. Some of our brands, in fact, I can guarantee that every one of you seated here has more than one 3M product right now with you. Either your mobile, your laptop, or you've been to the dentist and you have some products within you there, or some part of your body. I can guarantee you that. Or the women in this room must have used a 3M product this morning in their kitchen before they came to work today. Scotch-Brite. This is our corporate office in Bangalore. This is our innovation center at Electronic City. This is our customer technical center in Gurgaon, and this is one of our other offices. Before I move further, let me also tell you that 3M is such a diverse and complex organization. We have 7 businesses, as I mentioned to you, and we have 34 divisions. In other words, we have about 34 small companies. And each of these divisions, 34 divisions, have a different go-to-market model. There are institutional sales, there are government sales, there are OEMs, there is an FMCG model, there's distributor and channel distribution, key accounts, you name it, and we have it. So how do we manage such a diverse and complex organization? That is on one hand. On the other hand, as I mentioned to you a little while back, we have more than 125 scientists in our research and development center. And we have about 35–40% of our employees in manufacturing, about 800 of them. And we have a huge virtual office. So you must have guessed it right. There is no one shoe size fits-all strategy which will work in an organization like ours. That is why most of our initiatives have been created keeping this diverse workforce in mind. So we have a pan-national footprint. These are our 5 manufacturing plants. These are some of our offices across the country. So let me move to the topic of the day. How many of you are familiar with the Hoshin-Kanri process and have implemented it in your organization? Okay, this is a wonderful tool. This is a wonderful tool, and we've implemented it in 3M, in the industrial and transportation business internationally for a few years, and now we have implemented it in 3M across the globe, in all functions, in all businesses. It's a very simple and very effective tool. So let me spend a minute over here. What we're seeing here is actually, now this is known as a Hoshin-Kanri process. It is nothing but a business execution process. Now, this is what connects your strategy, your thought process, and your concepts, and the actual implementation. What happens in between is this particular process. It's known as Hoshin-Kanri, or is also known as X matrix because of this X that you see here. And this is broken up into 3 different documents. The first document is this X matrix, and this is basically your long-term or strategic objectives for the next 3 to 5 years. Now, this translates into your annual objectives over here, and this then is translated into what we call as the top-level improvement priorities, or the vital few. And each of these vital few has an has a A3, which I will share a little while later, and this A3 has all the activities that you need to do to be able to accomplish and fulfill each one of these vital few. And these are the metrics which are here, which goes on to determine the measure of success of these vital few. And these dots that you see here on this side are those people responsible for these vital few. So with one document, you have everything in place. It makes you so focused. All distractions are kept out. It cuts out all the whiffs and waffs, and you're able to go in a direction that you wouldn't have thought possible. And the A3s gets all the activities there, And the third document that I was referring to you about was a bowler. Now, all these metrics are converted into a bowler, which is month on month, where you have the plan and the actual. And if your actual is not as per plan, then what happens? It throws out that particular item in a red color. So in your reviews, in your monthly reviews, you just need to look at only the reds and see as to where you have failed and what you can do to ensure that it translates into a green the following month. Now I will move into in some of those practices which I thought are unique. Keeping in mind the complex and diverse organization that we are, the first we thought was the employee value proposition and the candidate contact process. So this is a document that we've created connecting all the recruitment partners with ourselves in terms of setting expectations right, in terms of selling the organization to potential 3M employees, and ensuring a proper cultural fit. ER assessment tool. I will spend a couple of minutes on this particular theme. We have 5 factories, as I mentioned. 4 years back, all of us sitting in corporate office never even knew what these 5 factories were like. And we have, as I mentioned earlier, about 35–40% of our employees in these factories. Both the manufacturing side as well as HR did not know what policies and practices existed. Who are those people? Who are the high flyers? Is there any commonality between these plants? But today as we speak, I can guarantee you, and I give you the opportunity for any one of you to walk into any one of those 5 plants, and you will say that it is world class. And how did we manage that? That was a journey that took us some time. We put in there is a tool which 3M International has been using in US for the last 20–25 years, and that has been replicated in some of the APAC countries, and India being one of the first ones to replicate them. So we had this end-to-end tool covers everything in manufacturing, covers the entire employee life cycle, right from contract employees to our FTEs, covers the hygiene factors, covers talent management, engagement, IR strategy, etc. Through implementation of this tool and through this proactive approach, you'll be surprised to know that we do not have unions in any of our plants. What this tool also has gone on to do is to create that sense of pride in the employees. Since we are so well networked, I'm sure a couple of stories which I would share with you, all of you may have either heard or read on Google or on some of the sites. But nevertheless, for me to set the context, let me share the story where a foreigner came to India and went about and saw this construction being built, and stood for some time and saw the first mason doing something and goes and asks, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm building this brick by brick." He goes to the next person on the other side, watches that person, and asks, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm responsible for building this wall." And then he goes to a third side and he sees another mason doing a similar job, exact same job, and he asks, "What are you doing?" And it took him a little longer to approach that person and ask him that question, because he found this person thoroughly enjoying what he was doing, singing songs, and the life that person exuded was so much. He went and he asked him, and that mason said, "I must tell you that we are building one of the most beautiful palaces in India." So the third is what I'm trying to tell you is what we've been able to do through this journey in our manufacturing plants. We've created a sense of ownership, a sense of pride in our employees, that even the operator at his level has created what you would now see the difference. We have created committees across various themes. 5S, which sees the transformation from what it used to be before and what it is now. You can see how the tools were kept in such an unorganized manner before, and a shadow board, which everything is so orderly. You can see the layout in the engineering department, how it used to be and how it is now. You can see this cupboard for manuals, which is so unorganized before and how it is kept now. You can see this office earlier and what it is now. So that's what we've been able to do. And we won awards internally. We won from CII, and we won from international forums too. We have a very robust induction process for the employees in the plants. And what we've also been adventurous about is to move into the performance management space for the operators, which 3M internationally has also not done. They said you'd be taking a risk, but we said, nevertheless, let us try it out. It is the 3rd year running now, and the performance management system for the workforce is happening in a wonderful manner, wherein we are able to set the goal setting in the beginning of the year. We are able to have those reviews, and we give them ratings at the end of the year, and we differentiate in terms of the increment based on their ratings. This is the induction picture. And one of the ways that we've been able to keep the unions out is through our proactive approach. We have committees for everything, and we have communications happening on a shift-by-shift basis. We call it tools down meeting, we call it crew meetings, supervisory meetings, manager meetings. We have communications flowing back and forth. Issues are identified well in advance. We have something known as an employee communication forum, which forms a representation of all the employees. And what started off 2-3 years back in terms of those monthly meetings with vada size and idli size and drinking water issues have now translated into productivity and process improvements coming up at the monthly meetings. We have a 3M club, which is responsible for engagement of individuals and families. This is completely owned by the employees in terms of representation. We have seen their leadership skills develop. We have seen their organization skills develop. They are completely responsible for the budgets. They contribute, and the organization also contributes in equal measure. Moving on to the third aspect, which is leader as people developer. Being an organization which is so diverse, we believe that our supervisors are extremely key to ensure the success of the organization. So we have programs built for individuals. We have programs built multi-level for different kinds of supervisors and leaders, both locally as well as internationally. Succession planning and HOO tool. HOO is nothing but our health of the organization. If you approach any old-timer and senior person in 3M, as well as you approach the HR organization and ask, which is that one tool that you're most proud about that you can say is a difference between 3M and the other organizations, we would undoubtedly say is the health of the organization. This is a tool which is reviewed at the highest level and takes into account the leadership that you would build over a period of time. And that is why 3M was awarded last year as the #1 leadership organization in the world. We have, through this tool, been able to identify as to who are those people in the running for all those departmental managers, functional managers positions, for all their supervisors who are the leadership team, the country business leaders, for the MDs, and for the future, and all those upper levels. So we have very clear ideas as to who are those people who are in the running, who are ready now, who are ready in the future, and what is it that we need to do to ensure that these individuals, their competencies are built over a period of time. And I'm covering it very quickly, but this is a tool which is a much more bigger than what I'm making it out to be, but it's a wonderful tool that we have. Accelerated onboarding process. Considering the diverse and complex nature of our organization, through an accelerated onboarding process, what we venture out to do is to give them an experience of what 3M is all about. In a very short while, 45 days, 90 days, 180 days, we have a well-developed onboarding process. And through this experience, they very quickly get to understand what 3M is and also start settling down and contributing back to the organization. Sorry. This is something which we have implemented this year, a retention toolkit. There are two maps that I would take you through. One is a target talent, and the other is a heat map. What we endeavor to do through the target talent is to identify through the potential and through the performance of the individual as to who are those who come into the top 2 boxes. So this is who we call as the critical talent. And what we also do through the heat map is here, what we're trying to do is map each and every employee in the organization and see as to, in comparison with the market outside, the skill that the individual brings to the table, is it low, easily replaceable, or is it unique? On this axis, what we're doing is for the supervisor to sense what is the probability of the person leaving the organization through all the signals that you get. And through this process, you map these boxes on top. So along with the target talent and the heat map, you identify all the critical talent that you have, and then you ring fence them either by paying them more competitively in comparison with the others, or through special, the previous speaker spoke about a lot of things that you would do in order to retain individuals, either through special projects, through training and development, through faster career growth, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we do through these two processes. Now, over the years, I'm sure all of you have also done the same thing. We have tried to do a lot of generic things in order to retain our people. And then we realized in 2011, possibly there's something more that we can do. So we identified who are those vulnerable groups from where we were losing a lot of people. And we found that operators in our Ranjangaon plant, that's about 65, 70 kilometers from Pune city, there was a high attrition. Then there's a body of people called the field sales officers. Earlier on, they were on contract, and on contract, the attrition used to be as high as 65, 70%. So a decision was taken about 3 years back to convert this particular category into on the rolls. And whilst we did that, whilst it is nowhere near a 65, 70, still the attrition there was high. So we took on this as a project. And here, a couple of businesses where we found there was high attrition, we said, let us put project plans around these 3 areas. So what we did was that, as I mentioned just now, we had project plans there. We had project teams. We had business leaders as part of the project teams, and not only HR who managed this. We had dashboards to monitor. We had periodic reviews. And through this process, we were able to not only cross the target that we put for the end of the year, but we far achieved more than that. So we decided for 2012, we will continue this particular strategy through which we gained a lot of mileage in 2011. So we have gone on to identify various other business groups and target populations to do such retention plans. And another bucket that we found suddenly started leaking towards, or was leaking and we never realized it towards the end of last year, was the early exits. And early exits is what we define as anything less than 24 months. So we've worked around a Six Sigma project for this particular group, and there are several actions that we have put in place, and that is also yielding fruit. Moving to Samman, as we call it, or rewards and recognition. We do the standard opinion surveys once in 2 years, and it was end of 2010 when we got the results. There were 3 particular items across 3M India which were low in priority, and one of those was rewards and recognition. So some project teams at the leadership level was formed, and where Samman is, and we realized that except for one award, which is an annual award called Param Award that we do in the organization, we had no sight what was the other rewards and recognition programs happening across the organization. So we tied up with this organization called Rideau, a French-Canadian organization, and this is a result of that particular project that we tied up with them. And today, we have a pyramid kind of a structure where we have 100% of our employees covered at different levels. And Param, as you see, where only 2% were covered earlier. We continue to have Param, but we also ensure that through other rewards and recognition right across for different reasons, this particular program has brought us a lot of mileage. I want to spend a few minutes on this particular, on Hruday, something which we are extremely proud about. The Param which I mentioned has different awards for different themes. And one of the themes they have is for cross-functional. And in 2010, and this is highly contested, everybody gets so excited, so geared up for these Param Awards, it's unbelievable. And in 2010, HR, along with corporate communications, she was at corporate communications and Wipro with me, tied up together right through the year and had such a plethora of communications that we did. It was unbelievable that we beat everybody hands down. We did communications, very creative, very innovative in different things, in business conduct policy, our leadership attributes, our values, cost efficiencies, role models, careers, in different things. And at the end of the year, we took the trophy, and we sat back and we looked at it and we said, whilst we won this award for communication, and we've ticked that box, hand on our heart, when we go and ask the employee, have they really benefited from it, we had to say, possibly no. Because I'm sure when we switch off these lights with your laptop open, the one button that all of us can find very easily is that delete button. So whilst we have communicated, have the employees actually got the benefit? We said no. So we said our mantra for the next 2 to 3 years needs to be that we need to reach out. So lots of ideas came on the table, and this is what finally happened. So before I take you through some visuals, let me explain what it is. So we put all our HR offerings, and we said, how can we reach out to the employee? It needs to be creative, it needs to be fun, it needs to be engaging, and it needs to be at their work spot. So we created a FET, a half-a-day FET, and we went down to each of the plants, each of the offices, and we had that FET. We had one part, 3 different parts. We had one part which we call as the walkthrough. We can't be creative in everything that we do. There's some which still needs to be communicated through posters, etc. So we had the walkthrough. And everything done in a place which is a little more bigger than this, colorfully lit up with music in the background, with a lot of noise. And we had people in those walkthrough, our HR folks in those walkthrough, engaging each individual on those posters and pieces of information, and having a quiz at the end of it. We had lots of prizes. Once they finished that walkthrough, they came into another area which had all games. I'm sure all of you have played cards, you'll have played snakes and ladders, you'll have played puzzles, you'll have played Ludo. We converted all our processes, 10 minutes more? Okay. We've converted all our processes into games. And there's one thing which was right through, which was the way that we engaged every individual, be it an operator, be it a corporate vice president who walked into our Hruday or People's Day, who felt at the end of it specially taken care of. And when they came, at each of these stalls, there were competitions. Everything was on a competition basis, either as an individual or as a team, so that there was fun in learning. And there were prizes, and prizes galore. So the next few slides will show you a lot of visuals which kind of captures the spirit of what happened. This is building blocks. This is the puzzles, our leadership attributes we did through them. This is our vice president, manufacturing and engineering. This is trying to fantasize about what is that job that you would like to get in, which geography, managing director's job, and that was basically to tell them that 3M is such a large and diverse organization, and the kind of opportunities that you get here with so many go-to different market models, with so many different businesses, you do not need to look outside of 3M in order to make a role change, in order to learn new skills. And this is some of the feedback that we got from the participants. This is our managing director. He was absolutely impressed. Very, very sleek and new age. Good job, guys. This was a marketing guy. In fact, at the end of the show, many of the marketing guys came and told us, you all have put us in a spot. And we asked them what happened. They said that their divisional manager said, if HR guys can be so creative, where is your creativity? I do not know why people think that we HR guys are not as creative as anybody else. So this was some of the feedback that we got. This gentleman has been in the organization as we speak for about 22 years now. He's a vice president supply chain. He says he's never seen, and he's worked internationally with 3M. He says he's not seen anything like this ever before. So that is something which we're extremely proud about, and we know it works. The last is the 3M engagement model. I know in HR we do so many things, and sometimes we do not know what connects where. So we put an engagement model in place, and we very clearly connected sustainability, healthier you, 3M Club. Sorry, I'm not wearing my glasses. Employee Connect, plant engagement and performance and capability. So whatever initiatives we do, we tie it up with our themes that we have. Moving to other HR practices, this is a slide I said I will allow you to choose, but before I do that, I want to take you through that Rainmakers program to show you that in 2010, mid of 2010, we tied up with a business. We had at that point of time about 70 marketeers. And being a sales-driven organization, a manufacturing organization, marketing was not where it should be. So internationally, it was decided in the next few years to convert, to ensure that marketing also gets its due. So the sales marketing leader and myself from HR, with a mentor who was a country business leader from a healthcare business, 3 of us formed a team, and we went on a 12-month project. To cut a long story short, it was a project during which we identified all the marketing competencies which need to be imparted. As I said, there were 70 marketeers. We started this program called the Rainmakers. We tied up with an external organization where there were 2 interventions on a month-on-month basis. We divided those 70 marketeers plus the divisional managers into 7 teams, since we have 7 businesses. And 1 country business leader was a mentor for each team. These 2 interventions on a monthly basis, the first intervention, the external organization got on different themes which were mapped out in a calendar, got external speakers, the best-in-class speakers from the industry, to speak on those themes, case studies, business simulation, etc. The second part of that intervention during that month was then to create a situation where each of those teams compete with each other, yeah? And there were points which they accumulated, which rolled up into a 12-month and a big rolling trophy. So now as we look back, the marketing community as we see it has completely changed. Marketers did not even know that there were other marketers in the organization, who they were. Now know who the other marketers are, understand what are the other best practices happening within, have ensured that through this 12-month program, their knowledge and expertise on marketing competencies has graduated from a marketing operations role to pricing strategy, to analysis, to brand, etc. So a few slides to show you what we did. Next few minutes, in case you find something strikes your eye, please feel free to ask me, and I'll quickly share as to what goes behind that theme. Sure. E is equal to MC squared is nothing but engagement is equal to more customer connect. Yeah, a few years back, when we did our surveys, we realized that possibly we were slipping in our customer contact. So we built an OD intervention around that. We got something, we created a 2-day module, and we ran employees across the organization through an E is equal to MC squared program, which then, when we did a survey 2 years later, it was quite dramatic to see the needle had moved quite a bit. So that was a program that we did. Yes, sir.
I enjoyed your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Your HR principles.
Come again, sir?
There was a slide on HR principles.
HR principles, yes.
Who owns it?
What we do in 3M is to ensure that every supervisor is made a HR manager. So whether it is deciding on his increments, we finalize the parameters, yes, or deciding on a course correction or the exit of an individual, HR does not take that decision, does not lead the conversation. We coach the supervisor to be able to handle that particular situation. Yeah? So the HR principles is owned by everybody. And looking at the gentleman, I must say, we're such a diversified organization. You'll be surprised that it's an American company. We have a Brit who's our chairman. We have a Swede who is our CEO. And we have a South Korean who is our head of international operations. Yeah, please.
So thanks. It was very insightful and interesting. So one thing that I want to understand from your previous slide.
Sure.
There was I don't know, you called it something like that heat box, that cloud?
Yeah, yeah.
The people at risk?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. See, the question is, again, I'm sure the line drives it, and while HR frames it and facilitates this. So more often than not, what happens is...
Come again, you said HR?
HR,
HR does not do this.
yeah, so line does it, I'm sure.
Absolutely,
Right?
we facilitate the
You
process.
HR
That's right.
facilitates this.
That's right.
Correct? So you put a framework, you facilitate it, but the decision maker is line.
That's right.
Right? So as a business leader, when you're going through some of the critical HR processes, whether you are in the time when you're running your appraisals, or your time when you're running your compensation, or you are identifying top talent for succession, irrespective of what HR process and what season it is, for each line manager, every person in his or her team is a critical resource. So how do you ensure that those subjectivities are not flowing in? So if you, for example, if most of us, we run that energy curve during performance, right? So even if you say that, okay, top 20% will only be falling in that top tip of the pyramid, but often you will see that people are trying to push more and more.
Sure.
So how do you ensure that this is your real critical
Good
pool,
question.
which is at threat?
Good
Yeah.
question. Since you also mentioned about the performance management and the distribution curve, let me tell you, not only this, but including our performance management system, we have several moderation levels. Yeah? While the immediate supervisor does this, it goes through a moderation at the next level and at a final level. So thus ensuring that that element, and you would agree with me that all people processes, yeah, has some element of subjectivity. So by going through these different levels of moderation, we only try and minimize the subjectivity as much as possible. That is number one. Number two, what goes behind both these maps are very minute Excel sheets, which clearly says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So a combination of this and this, yeah, would get you either a green or a yellow or a red. So there are questions asked as to why do you think this person's skill in the previous slide, sorry, this one only, that you're saying is a 4 and quite unique and difficult to replace. Yeah? So we go through a lot of such questions to finally decide that should that person be a 4 or should it be a 3? Yeah? Otherwise, as you said, possibly a large part of the organization would appear in these 4 boxes, and then we wouldn't be differentiating. Thank you. This is, sure. This is connected to all the processes, your training, your compensation, your job rotation, your succession planning. A lot of this is connected with these 2 processes. Okay? I've been given the last gong, so sure, please. Yeah. Sure. 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 We have multiple frameworks, and now, as I said, we have the Hoshin Kanri process. Yeah. So that is a framework. So in the Hoshin Kanri for 3M India, we have a few of what you have seen in the Hoshin Kanri for HR as part of that. Number one. Number two is some of this which is in the HR Hoshin Kanri is part of the international Hoshin Kanri. Yeah. So that's how the alignment is done. Yeah. So coming to my last slide, very quickly I'll move into what are we saying here? 3M as an organization, our culture and values, everything that we do is anchored to some of our foundation principles and values. And one thing that we believe in is uncompromising integrity. So all our employees know that, all the people that we deal with, our recruitment partners, our business vendors, everybody is aware of our dealings and how we interact with them. We have an extremely strong performance management system. In passing, I did mention there, a very robust multi-level moderation process. It's very forward-looking. It has placement codes, potential codes, leadership attributes. So it's looking at whilst looking at the performance of the individual the last 1 year, it is also forward-looking and planning for the future. Building leaders from within, such an organization so diverse that we need leaders being, and an organization which is growing at the pace that we're growing, we need to keep, on a continuous basis, creating new leaders within. So we have the HO process also, as I mentioned to you. Work environment, we are trying to create, and I think to some extent, we've been able to create an environment where people say, Monday morning, wow. There's a lot of respect, openness, trust, transparency, and empowerment that we believe in, and it's not only in words on the slide, but we actually practice it. We do not believe in micromanaging, and communication at all levels. You all saw a snapshot of what I shared in the plants which happen, and manufacturing plants, because such a robust process that we put in, we have a positive employee relations through our proactive approach over there. And this is something which goes on to describe what 3M is all about.
Thank you, McLean. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Very good, very good. Thank you to all of our presenters this morning.